Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at the Unit 6 test. Number 1, what was a problem for President Carter as the 1980 election approached? So we're talking about President Jimmy Carter, the end of the 1970s. What kind of problems was he facing? Was it A, hostages in Iran, or B, natural disaster? So what was the big thing that was going on that he was trying to solve and take care of? Number 2, who was president during the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Soviet Union? Who was the president? This one could be a little tricky, but who was that president? Was it Ronald Reagan or George Bush? Number 3, which president is known for promoting health care, protecting women's rights, and balancing the federal budget? So who did all of those things during their presidency? And this was one of the few presidents that had a balanced federal budget. There was some scandal in their presidency also. But was that George W. Bush or Bill Clinton? Number 4, what was the significance? That also means like importance. What was the really big thing of Barack Obama's victory in the 2008 presidential election? So when he won the presidency, what was the big thing about that? Was it A, he didn't win the popular vote? Or was it B, he was the first African American president? Number 5, what legislation was intended to heighten security? That means to tighten it, make it more secure, more measures were going in, or the government was doing more things to make the country safer and protect citizens against terrorists, but also raised issues concerning civil rights. So what this question is saying, what laws were passed that the point of the law was to make people in the U.S. safer, but it took away some of our civil rights. So what was this? Was this the NAFTA Act or the Patriot Act? Which legislation or law was supposed to make people in the U.S. safe, but it also took away a lot of their rights? Number 6, what role did weapons of mass destruction play in the U.S. invasion of Iraq? So what this question is asking is weapons of mass destruction. These are nuclear weapons usually. How did they influence, or what did they do with the U.S. going into Iraq? Was it that led the U.S. to invade, but none of these nuclear weapons or weapons of mass destruction were found? Or it led the U.S. to invade, but they found a ton of these nuclear weapons? So A, they didn't find any of these weapons of mass destruction or nuclear weapons, or B, they found a ton of them. Number 7, what happened on September 11th, 2001? Did terrorists use planes to kill thousands, destroying New York's Twin Towers and part of the Pentagon? Or B, terrorists led the U.S. to invade Iran? What happened on September 11th, 2001? We also call this 9/11. Number 8, who in the Clinton administration, so that means when Bill Clinton was president, addressed global warming and climate change? So this question is saying when Bill Clinton was president, who in his group talked about global warming, climate change? Was that A, Al Gore, or B, Ted Kennedy? Number 9, what was a key part in making computers widely accessible to the public? So this question is saying what was an important reason or that made it so that everybody could have computers? So what happened that made it so that almost everyone has computers, or there's so many of us with computers today? Was it A, they became cheaper and smaller, or B, there were government programs which gave funding or money to buy them? Number 10, what developed What development opened the internet to popular usage? So this question is saying, what happened? Like, what new thing, what new technology got it so that the internet, everyone could use it? Was it A, Google, or B, the World Wide Web? Number 11. What issue related to Mexico became a major topic beginning in the 1990s? So this question is saying, okay, in the 1990s, what really kind of started to become something people talked about? What was a problem that was going on between the U.S. and Mexico? Was it A, trade, or B, illegal immigration? Number 12. What country did the U.S. try to help in the Persian Gulf War? Was it A, Iraq, or B, Kuwait? Who did we try and help? 13. In which area is Ronald Reagan's legacy usually considered the strongest? So this is saying, with Ronald Reagan as president, what do people think, hey, this is what he's known for? Like, this is what Ronald Reagan did. When people think about Ronald Reagan, what do they think about? Is it A, the ending of the Cold War, or B, his fight against illegal immigration? What do people think about with Ronald Reagan? 14. What disease began to spread rapidly in the 1980s? Was it A, smallpox, or B, AIDS? 15. The New Right focused on. So the New Right was this new thing that came out in the 1980s. It was a new political group. Did they focus on social issues? Those mean issues within the country. Those could be things like education, it could be things like healthcare, or did they focus on economic issues? That means money. What did the New Right focus on? And these guys were coming out during Reagan's presidency. 16. What was seen as a symbol of the end of the Cold War? So this is like a picture of the end of the Cold War. When people think of it, this was like that moment that people were like, oh, it's ending. Was it A, the fall of the Berlin Wall, or B, Gorbachev stepping down? Gorbachev was the leader of the Soviet Union. So was it when the Berlin Wall was taken down, or when Gorbachev stepped down? 17. What was Reagan's idea to aid in the collapse of the Soviet Union? So Ronald Reagan, President Reagan, what was his idea to get the Soviet Union to basically be done? How was he trying to break it up? He was like, how am I going to get them to not be this superpower anymore? Did he A, destabilize the Soviet bloc countries, or B, try to outspend the Soviet Union, which would make them go bankrupt? 18. Who was the very first female Supreme Court justice? Was it A, Scalia, or B, O'Connor? Who was the first female Supreme Court justice? 19. What was an effect of Reaganomics? A, the national debt went down, or B, the national debt increased? What was an effect of Reaganomics? This was the political, the economic policy during Reagan's time period. 20. What was the focus of Reaganomics? So what was the whole point of it? Was it A, reducing the size of the federal government, or B, increasing the size of the federal government? So did Reaganomics make the federal government smaller? That would be A. Or did it make it bigger? That would be B. 21. What was a factor in the 1980s rise of conservatism? Was it the collapse of communism or the problems from the 1970s? 22. How is a president elected? How does a president get elected? Is it by the popular vote or the people voting? Or is it by the Electoral College? And number 23. This group began to get power in the 1980s and focused on social issues. Was it A, the moral majority, or B, the New Left? Who was this group? And that will be the end of this unit test and the end of our unit tests.